magic to work, you have to truly believe in the magic.
What's up, Magic fans? Welcome to this week's episode of Let's Talk Magic, an Orlando Magic podcast. On today's episode, we're going to recap the past week, and a half actually, with the road trip including games against Cleveland, Detroit and Atlanta, and our two most recent games at home against the Brooklyn Nets and the Utah Jazz. We're also going to dip into the Magic mailbag and answer some of your questions. So without further ado, I'm joined by this handsome lot, and I can see two of them are wearing our new hoodies. So let's go to these guys first. Let's go to Mikey in the white Let's Talk Magic hoodie. How are you, sir? You good?
I know it's dangerous, but in white. I said to you guys when I ordered it, I was like, I don't think I could trust myself, but hey, I thought I'd see what it was like. Yeah, I'm good, mate. Thank you. It's been a good week. How's your week been, mate? It's
been busy in work. I'll put it that way. But it's been okay because it's Friday now and it's St. David's Day. So happy St. David's Day to everyone. Yeah.
Paul, don't wave daffodils.
Yeah, I'm keeping away. I'm not hugging any random Welsh bloke who's got a daffodil near him.
And we've got Paul who's sporting the Star.
The Star?
Let's Talk Magic logo. It's looking good, mate.
It's not, to be honest, mate, really, really nice quality. Very pleased with this. Yeah, well pleased with it. Yeah, very nice.
Excellent. And I know Gary's got one as well. And you've got
I couldn't compete with these two beefcakes, so I thought I'd let them model it and I'll just sit back and let them look good.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure you'll be rocking yours next week, Gar. But how's your week, mate? You good?
Yeah, just busy as well, mate.
Yeah.
Very.
Same old, isn't it? There we go. Yeah. Right then, let's just get into it, I guess. So the week that was, so from what seemed like an eternity, the All-Star break did take quite a while. We did have Magic basketball back in our lives after our most recent pod, which was last week, when we faced the Cleveland Cavaliers. So just a very quick recap on that one. Mo Wagner got us going with 22 points. Franz Wagner added 14. And we got a quite convincing, nice win over the Cavaliers, 116-109, who were, of course, missing Donovan Mitchell, which was just their third loss in 21 games. So quite a nice way to come back from the All-Star break, getting the W there. Like I said, they've been one of the hottest teams since mid-December. But in fairness, Orlando just outplayed Cleveland from start to finish. Cleveland got back into it, make it score a little bit more respectable at the end. But, you know, it was quite a good win. So I just want to talk about Mo Wagner because he's been absolutely brilliant recently. Gary, what do you make of his contributions and his importance to the team, especially in the last month or so?
I think when you look at it statistically in the last 10, it's kind of just mirroring Mo's season, where you look at, if you just went last 10 games, you look at 11 points, just shy of 5 rebounds, 85% from the free throw line, almost 62% from the field. Quite surprising that he's actually 3-point percentage is about 4% down on where his career and normal regular season average is. But if you've watched Mo Wagner since he came to Orlando, it's not just statistically what he offers, it's how he offers it. It's the character, it's the fire, it's the offensive output. I think Cole said he was a sixth man of the year candidate. I think when we've been talking about the merits of our bench, we've said Cole, Jonathan Isaac, Mo Wagner are really like our big three. And then it's also that link up synergy he seems to have with Joe Ingles when they're on the court together. And I think from an offensive standpoint and from a character standpoint, he's absolutely huge. If I was to look ahead with rose-tinted glasses, you're looking at the playoffs, and I'm looking at it. I'm expecting the Magic to be in the postseason, and I think in that element, Jonathan Isaac's actually really important to Mo Wagner, because I think we could probably agree that Mo's defensive end of the game is what's probably his weakest part. And when you throw a potential lineup on the floor that's going to have more Cole and Joe Ingles, the importance of Jonathan Isaac to that five running from the bench is huge, because offensively they could take things away from a team. defensively, they need Jonathan Isaac there. But what he brings, the Magic are too nice. So having more Vagner and Joe Ingles on the team does change things a little bit, because if you've got a team full of nice guys, you're not winning anything.
Yeah, and we'll speak about the game last night against Utah in a sec. Well, in a little bit now, but for those of you who've seen it, you guys have seen it. His interview at halftime, the walk off with Dante. The Magic were up by 13. Utah responded with a 10-0 run to end the half. How annoyed was he? It was just good to see you, wasn't it? Yeah.
Well, I'm all possessions, mate, because I was having to watch it when I came in, so I had that cut out. So no.
I was just absolutely annoyed with, the focus wasn't there towards the end of the half, and it was just good to see, and he just said, we just need to lock in, and we get the W. Luckily we did. So, so after that game, we had quite an emotional game on Saturday night last weekend now against the Detroit Pistons once again on the road. We left it late. It made us sweat a little bit. But a Paulo Banero jumper from the corner, getting fouled as he shot the ball, meant we left the Motor City with a 3-point win. But Paul, I just want to focus on the interview again. Just mentioned the other interview with Vagner. And the emotion that Paulo brought in his post-game with Kendra Douglas. Tell us what you made of the interview and the sort of the leadership Paulo's showing, remembering he is only 21 years old.
Yeah, mate, I'm actually going to bring in Mo's interview into this. Anyway, I started off with the Paulo part of it. I'm almost tempted to use Paulo's choice of vocabulary to express how much I loved seeing a player that passionate about a single season game win. And it's against a team who technically we should be beating, and that's no disrespect to them. I said in the preview, and I've said it many times, they are better than their record. So it's no disrespect at all. But Paulo was emotional from what he'd come through, from being ill, for the effort that the team had made. And it's superb to see that a single win means that much to this player and to a group collectively. I think Paulo is one of those guys that you talk about leadership. If you are put it in any work environment, if you've got that sort of person working with you, you're willing to follow them as a leader. You're willing to work harder, because he's not just confident. He's confident, but he isn't arrogant in his ability. He's a strong personality. He works hard, but he clearly has a hell of a lot of fun and humour in doing what he's doing. And importantly, because he's also skilled, he isn't asking you to do something that he isn't capable of doing. He's taking on that leadership responsibility by backing it up with his own actions. That's huge. And they're the type of people that when you're working with in any facet of life, you get behind and you follow, and you want to emulate's probably the wrong word, but you want to do your best for them as well, because you know that they're doing their best for you. Huge. You've got to remember that this is a guy who also apologized for missing a shot. The last shot, was it against Miami?
Miami, yeah.
They lost touch of the ball. But coming back to you mentioning the Mo Vagner interview, I think that attitude to winning and taking responsibility, it's not just a Paulo thing. When you look at that Utah game as a whole, is a perfect example of it. You've got pre-game, everyone's in the huddle. You've got Cole doing his dance, but everyone's getting involved. Everyone's having fun around that. You then half-time. Mo Vagner did not want to be doing that interview. Mo Vagner was frustrated. He'd got things he clearly wanted to say constructively for the team, So he wanted to get in there and be part of getting this group back together. You've already said, G, he was frustrated. There were things that he'd seen that they needed to do better. And that's then mirrored further when Dante reported that during one of the timeouts, Admiral Schofield was extremely animated, telling the team to focus in on what they were doing, focus on what they can affect, to stop complaining and get themselves into the game, rather than focusing on negative stuff that you've got no control over. That's huge from the end, from what is an effective, genuinely an end of bench guy. He's a two-way player, but he's so much part of the team. It doesn't matter what your role is, he's still part of that team, and people are willing to listen. That is massive as far as a team ethic goes. You then look at the post-game interviews. You've got Fultz and Suggs being interviewed. Each are praising each other. You've got Jet Howard coming in the background, desperate to get involved, to praise these two guys. You've got Fultz, you've got Suggs equally, not just praising one another who have stood there, but giving shout outs to Wendell, saying what he'd done, giving shout outs to Mo, giving shout outs to Paulo. Everybody is invested in each other. And if you have that much of a group ethic, then the team can go an awful lot further than the individual talent. And it's incredible to see. The other thing I will say before I finish off, the friendship and fun that the group are having. You looked at, as Jalen was being interviewed, as they were coming off, Jalen says about, and this old man here, as Joe Ingles is going off, there's slaps on the back, they're messing about, well, and take it. And if you have that much Mickey taking from one another, joking, and you're that comfortable being able to do it, it shows that tight bond and the friendship that this group have. We're in a hell of a good place. Yeah.
Oh, great analysis there, Paul. As you say, there's no I in team, is there? And that's quite evident.
And it's far beyond the Paulo interview, but the Paulo interview was that moment where a lot of fans, I think, looked and thought, this is just one game win in the season, and it means this much. Brilliant to see.
Paul, you mentioned Cole Anthony's dancing. Are we going to get to see a Biffa Cole Anthony remake?
I think
play the song.
If you three are willing to be stood around on the outside, then I'm willing to bust out the moves again.
Next meetup.
Nobody wants to see it. Nobody wants to see it, but I'm willing to do it. And that's without drinking.
Or they do want to see it, though.
Right, I know. It still amazes me how much people love it when we break out the win video where we were all doing that dance.
Yeah.
Dancing and having fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We're having fun now.
We are. So after that Pistons game, we were on a back-to-back. So the second night we rolled into Atlanta, where they've got the most annoying PA system in the whole world. I've got to say it, just because it is so painful, isn't it?
Hate it.
Oh, my life.
How many texts did we exchange, G, talking about it?
Many.
The WhatsApp are in profit this month on the basis of G and I complaining about that one game.
Oh,
the PA. Awful.
Yeah. Okay, would you imagine being a fan of that team and listening to that every night? Anyway.
Horrendous. And then the Hawks shriek as well.
That foul is offensive. Oh my God, just cringe.
Cringy. Awful.
Yeah, anyway, forget that's enough about the Atlanta Hawks. So in this one, Paulo was missing, obviously, taking his toll. He was out with an illness. Obviously, we saw the effects of it the game previous. We all held our breath as Jonathan Isaac suffered a knee injury. He didn't return. Luckily, X-rays were negative. and we've since sort of found out that, Jonathan is more likely sort of a day-to-day case. So we're hoping to see him back on the court, hopefully within the next week or so. We did lose the game 109-92. So that's 3 losses. So Mikey, I'm going to come to you. 3 losses this season to the Hawks, 2 to the Brooklyn Nets. Is this a cause for concern, not beating teams, we should be beating? Or is this just one of those things that, maybe they just got our number at the moment?
Yeah, I think there's obviously a matchup problem there. I think if you look at Atlanta, they're arguably better in the guard position than we are. Trae Young's elite. He's an elite 3-point shooter. DeJounte Murray's played really, really well against us this season. And the backcourt isn't the Magic strength at the moment. We've still got to develop in that area as well. But if you look at Brooklyn, looking at both teams, really, I mean, the Magic have lost, I had a quick look, I think it's 7 of the last 8 games in Brooklyn on the road. And you think back to, I think it was November, the first road game against Brooklyn was the first play-in season game. So there's a bit more riding on that game. It was earlier in the season. Yeah, I just think it's one of those matchup things. Look, at the end of the day, the Magic have been good this season because we've been beating the majority of the teams we should be beating. We've been beating the teams under 500. They're just 2 teams that, you could just argue they're bogey sides for us. And let's not forget, we've gone through stretches with lots of injuries as well, which have factored into some of these games where you've been missing key players. You think earlier in the season with Fultz missing time, J.I. missing time, Franz missed games, Wendell missed a big chunk of the season. So I think fully healthy, I think we're more than capable. And look, we we beat Brooklyn pretty comfortably the other night. And I think Paul might have put this in our WhatsApp group the night before was it Paulo missing in this game? And you put in the group, I can't see anything else but a Magic loss tonight. Was that the game, Paul?
Yeah,
it was the Brooklyn game.
I didn't realise. I might have been a little bit more confident had I realised that they were on a back-to-back and not getting in until
4 in the morning.
That sort of hour. And I still don't get that with scheduling. You're not giving a team a chance. You're not giving it. You're talking about Atlanta. You're talking about Atlanta there. We all said the Atlanta game felt like a scheduled loss.
Mm-hmm.
You put it in on the back end of 5 games in however few days, including 3 games of travel, and and there's a back-to-back involved. Yeah, you're going to lose. You've got every chance of losing that game. Yeah. And I don't understand why you see these. I don't understand why the NBA scheduling has what are effectively scheduled losses for teams. Makes no sense to me.
No. So after that,
you were right, Mikey. Yeah, I did. I couldn't see anything else but a loss on that one with how things were.
Yeah. So after that rough loss in Atlanta, Coach Jamal Mosley started to think about shaking it all up and started a new starting 5 in the game against Brooklyn, going with Suggs, Harris, Caleb Houston, Franz, and Wendell, as Paulo was still missing. And obviously we were missing J.I. What did you think to the sort of the makeup of the lineup? Was it just shaking things up just to see what, different variations of what could be had, what could be done? Or do you think there was anything?
I think what it proved is something we should have done at deadline and surround the starting lineup with more 3-point shooting. That's what Caleb, Gary Harris, and Jalen have been really good at, is surrounding Franz and Wendell with 3-point shooting. I think I'm not hugely disappointed we didn't do anything at the deadline and we didn't get another 3-point shooter, because I still think there's enough of that on the roster. But if you think now Paulo's back as well, Harris is. I was going to bring this up if it wasn't in one of the questions anyway, but even with Paulo back now, I think it's interesting that Gary Harris is in that starting lineup to help spread the floor a little bit more for Paulo and Franz, because that's what we've all been crying out for. And I think with Cole's ability off the bench shooting the 3 gives Markel a little bit more of freedom, gives him a little bit more control the offense coming off the bench. But yeah, I do think it was interesting. But yeah, I think 3-point shooting is what this team needs. Yeah.
Well, that starting unit, the three that you mentioned there, Mikey, Caleb, Gary Harris, and Jalen, went 6 of 10 from 3-point range.
There you go.
All 5 of those starters, I've got to be honest, it was only when I read this question that I actually looked. I didn't realise this. All 3 of those starters, all 5 of the starting unit had a positive plus-minus figure, and not just a little bit. The smallest number was Franz Wagner with a plus 16.
I mean, it did help when we battered them, but
oh yeah, but the highest was Gary Harris with plus 23, Caleb plus 21, Wendell Carter Jr. plus 20, and who I missed there, Jalen Suggs plus 20. Now, I'm going to say that I do think some of the scheduling came in there because you could see that the Nets were tired. They were tired in that game. But you're putting out a unit that hasn't played together as a starting unit. It was a little bit creaky in parts, but they found a way to get it done. And again, I think if anything positive comes out of seeing these different units, it is seeing that the Magic are finding ways to get wins in different situations.
Yeah,
it's huge. It's huge for a developing team.
So we followed that game up with a win last night against the Utah Jazz. So just wanted to quickly talk about Jalen Suggs. I wasn't sure who would have seen the game. I know that Paul and Mikey have, and Gary's deep into the third quarter, but he knows the result. But essentially, Jalen Suggs got hot from deep in the last 3 minutes, hitting 3 3-point shots. So just wanted to ask you, what's impressed you about Jalen this season in his improvement? That could be to any of you. I wasn't sure who had watched it.
I've only just finished the game, about 20 minutes before we started doing this, and I can't help but think consistently throughout this season when we're watching Jalen that it comes off the back end of being healthy at the end of last season, having a good final stretch of the season, bringing that, so gaining confidence there. He then has a full summer of ability where he's able to work on his game. He's able to work hard. And as a result, we start seeing growth. We then see what the Magic have done in the changing up of the backroom staff for the medical side of things and the mental well-being. And Jalen's one of those guys that's benefiting massively from that. He's consistently giving props to that department for the help that they are giving him. And you are seeing growth. And I think you're now starting to see what the Magic saw when they took him at the 5th pick, wasn't it? Was it 5th pick?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
When we took him at the 5th pick. You look at his last 5 games, and he's shooting 50% from beyond the arc. What's his score? Is it points per game has been just short of 12 in the last 5 games per game. We're getting just short of 4 assists, 1.6 steals in the last per game in the last 5. He's throwing himself all over the place, working himself silly. I know he fouled out last night, but were there any really silly fouls, or were they good fouls that he took a lot of the time, benefiting the team?
His defense was exceptional throughout the game. And then, a couple of ticky-tack ones, but you just want him to be aggressive. It just sets the tone.
But on the season, you're looking at him being a point per game higher than his career average. You're looking at the rebounds being the same. You're looking at his assists are down on his average. The steals are up, but his influence on a game is so much greater. And he's 3-point shooting on the season, 45.7%, up from 41. That's a few extra points that you're relying on. And yes, he's those extra points are coming at key times for this team. Yeah, I don't think you can understate his importance to the squad.
Yeah. Anything to add, guys?
I think it was worth seeing. Like, Paul's covered it way better than I could, but if I was to take it beyond that, there was a metric posted, I think it was NBA University on Twitter during the week, and it was basically comparing Jalen Suggs against Marcus Smart and Drew Holiday in terms of elite level defenders. And if you think about it, that's two players who he's had the comparison to. So Holiday was seen as his upside, perhaps, from a lot of people, and Marcus Smart starting to now look like his flaw. And Suggs is on a trajectory to suggest that his defense is going to be equally as effective in his career, and it's already matching up quite well to what two of the best perimeter defenders, and you're talking defensive player of the year level players here, bring to their teams. And I think statistically, Suggs, he's just shy of 40% for the season on 3-point percentage. That was a letdown for Jalen Suggs when he was a rookie with the Magic. It was something he struggled with. His last 10 games, he's around about 43% from three, which is elite in the league. So if you look at that for Suggs going forward, it points more towards him being I would say a 16 points per game plus guy with elite level defense, rather than being maybe how Marcus Smart is, which is your 10 to 13 points type of player. I think Suggs has got it in him to be over 16 points a game. He's grown in confidence, and as our guards go right now, Suggs is the one who you would say is if it was football, he's one of the first names on the team sheet.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Cool. Right. Go on, Mikey, go on.
I was just going to add, forget all the points and assists and the improved 3-point percentage. I just think Jalen's decision-making has massively improved. And I don't mean necessarily as a playmaker from the point guard position, because he's not, I wouldn't say he's the natural point guard, but I just think Jalen's in a comfortable place now where he knows where his shots are. He knows, he knows where his sweet spots are on the floor. He knows when to take certain shots, like when to drive, when to find a corner and wait for the ball to swing around to him. And we saw that last night against Utah down the stretch, that he'd relocate and find himself in the corner, and he knows Paulo and Franz will make that pass to find him when needed. I think it's massive that he's playing with two really, really good playmakers in Paulo and Franz, where he doesn't have that pressure on him that he needs to create the offense. I think you can just say to Jalen, right, do what you do great, defend really hard, set the tone, shoot threes, drive to the basket when it's there for you. And I just think he's understanding his role better now. And I think that's what the Magic really deserve credit more than anything is, we've drafted really well, but they've done really well defining what they want from each player. And I think each player knows what their role is, and they're starting to elevate their game. And like I said, I think his decision-making has been really, really good for me. I think that's probably his biggest upside for me this season.
Yeah. He's certainly starting to look like that 5th overall pick that we expected from that draft. So let's just take a quick break to tell you about our partner, Attraction Tickets. Are you looking for tickets and hotels for the world's best theme parks and attractions? If so, please check out Attraction Tickets. They're the UK's #1 attraction ticket provider for Walt Disney World, Universal Studios, SeaWorld, Disneyland Paris, and other popular attractions. Attraction Tickets also sell Orlando Magic tickets at hugely competitive prices. So when you're booking your next holiday, use our link in the description and see what they have to offer. What's happening with Gary's lighting there? Sending
the fireworks off on the look of that.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Disney fireworks for you there, G. And a thumbs up.
Anyone's listening to this now on on your podcast providers. You're gonna have to watch it on YouTube now as well, just to see what Gary just did. You can also
Spielberg
use our
levels.
You can also use our website, letstalkmagic.com, for all our affiliate links and discount codes, including the NBA store and Fanatics. And as we discussed at the top of the show, I mentioned the guys have got the hoodies there. Check out our T-Mill store. The guys have been busy updating that, so we've got a couple of brand new designs there. So please do check them out. Right then, so Magic mailbag time. So we asked the greater UK Magic community to send in any questions that you'd like us to answer or discuss. So let's just get into these because we've got a fair few to get through. So we had one right at the death, and I didn't put it in the agenda, guys, right? So the questions come from Gary Craggs, and it's to Paul and Mikey.
Wow.
Can Franz Wagner guard Mikal Bridges?
Yes. He did it for Germany and he did it for the Magic. Yes.
Yeah.
Nicely done, Gav. Nicely done.
Sorry, mate. I could have also asked, is Dennis Smith Jr. a savage or not right now?
I still like Dennis Smith. I still like him.
Someone has to.
I still like him. I can't help but wish him well in his career. I like
fair.
him.
Yeah, I've got nothing against him.
Yeah. So first question, it's come from Neil Piper. Mikey, would a first round exit be considered a good season this year?
It depends who we play in the first round. Is that a good comeback? I think if you're playing, I think if we get the 6th or 7th seed, I think if you're playing maybe New York or Philly in the first round, I'd be disappointed if we got bounced. I know Embiid will likely be back for the playoffs, but he's not going to be 100% surely. But I think if you end up playing Boston, Cleveland or Milwaukee, I think, yeah, it's still a successful season. I think we've seen that the improvement this team's made already this year. The playoffs are going to highlight what this team needs going into next year. So there's going to be positives to take from that. But I think if we end up somehow playing New York, Philly, Indiana in the first round, however the standings end up shaking out, then yeah, I think I'd be a bit disappointed because I think we've got everything we need. I think offensively we need to have it going. We need to have it rolling in the playoffs because that's going to be our letdown. But defensively, if we can get Jonathan Eisenbach healthy for a 7-game series, then I think we could beat anybody. But yeah.
So a little bit ahead of schedule, because obviously at the beginning of the season, we all said, making the playoffs was, a goal that we thought was attainable. And hopefully, we're on the way to doing that. So yeah, thanks for that question. So the next one's coming from Liam Radbourne, who's one of our patrons. So thank you, Liam. What do we think our record will be through the month of March? So we've obviously got a long home stretch at the end of the month and only 4 games on the road. Liam thinks it's an ideal time to make a push for an automatic playoff place, as in, top 6. And he's gone with a prediction of 11-4. That does include last night's Utah game, because technically it was, right at the end of February, 1st of March, we watched it. Gary, you want to go first on this for me?
Yeah, sure. I think if you offer me 11-4, I'll take your hands off right now, because I think that would pretty much lock us into the playoffs. If we went 11-4, I think it would be really hard not to be a playoff team, a top 6 seed. I'm going to be a little bit more pessimistic, but not too much pessimistic. I've gone 9-6 for the month. So 15 games, including last night, I've gone 9-6. That would put us on 42 wins. I think going 9-6 is a fair reflection of where the Magic have been across the season. If you were asking on 15 games, I think we've been better than a 500 team for pretty much all season. So you're looking at it just on data before you consider the teams. You're looking at like 8-7, 9-6 out of 15 games is roughly in line with our form for most of the season. The teams that we play in there are favourable, but anything can happen. And I know, like Paul said, for example, that Detroit are way better than their record would say. I think you can say that about a lot of teams. I don't think there are many bad teams in the NBA this season, although I think some now have an eye on the lottery. But things like playing a back-to-back against the Raptors, I think it's really hard to get back-to-back wins against the same team. So I've got us at 9-6. That would set us up nicely to be at the end of the season on 46, 47 wins, which for me should be good enough for 6th seed or maybe a little bit better. But 11-4 would be absolutely wonderful.
Yeah. We spoke about this on our Patreon call on the Sunday, didn't we, Gar? But before I come to Paul and Mikey, just see what their predictions are, I'll just run through the fixtures for March. So you got Detroit at home on, is it Saturday or Sunday night? And then you go at Charlotte, at Washington, at New York, home against Indiana, home against Brooklyn, at Toronto, home against Toronto, which is that back-to-back Gary mentioned, Charlotte at home, New Orleans at home, Sacramento at home, Golden State, LA Clippers, and Memphis all at home just to finish the month off. So, Paul, how do you find it, mate?
Honestly, really difficult to predict. I don't like that we have Washington on the second night of a back-to-back involving travel. Although I do believe we should beat Washington. The Indiana game is the first home game after the 3-game road trip. Absolute must win. Absolute must win for this team. And that has to be a night where the Kia Centre is as loud as it can possibly be and has a playoff atmosphere. I'm in total agreement with Gary. The Toronto games being one after the other, very difficult to get 2 wins. You look at Sacramento, you look at Golden State, you look at the Clippers coming into Kia Centre. None of those are easy games. And Memphis is the second night of a back-to-back after the Clippers game to finish it off. I would snatch your hand off for 11-4. I'm going 10-5.
Okay.
10-5. If we get that, I'm made up.
Yeah.
But it could easily be where Gary is. I could make an argument for that exactly as Gary has. Quite happily agree. And if we did get that 9-6, it wouldn't be a disaster because it would still put you in a strong position. And you've got to look at where would those wins come against? Who would those wins come against? If you lose to New York, the Pacers, then they're the big hitters. They're the ones that really hurt you. They're the two that you've really got to be aiming to take wins in, particularly.
So, Mikey, how have you got the month looking?
12-3. I'm going with. I think anything less than 10 wins, I'd be really disappointed in this stretch in March. I think if you look at the 15 games, 6 of those games are against teams above 500. 5 of those we play at home. Now I know there's back-to-backs and there's a bit of road travel you've got to schedule in here as well. But there's a lot of teams in there that we've been beating this season, and I'd expect to carry on beating. Now there's going to be games like last night against the Jazz, who maybe their record doesn't show how good a team they can actually be when they get going. Look, we got Detroit on Sunday. They cause us problems in the week. You can't. When it's not like we're going into these games. What's the word I'm looking for? Where there's an expectation. Yeah, your complacency. Yeah. You're not being complacent. You're not being cocky and arrogant, walking into somebody's building thinking, yeah, we've already won tonight. There's none of that with this group at all. And Paul's already alluded to this with the way Mo Wagner talked at halftime against the Jazz after blowing a 13-point lead. There's no complacency with this team, and I don't think the coach and staff will let that happen either. But there is an expectation that this team's good enough to go on make this playoff push. For a team that's won 8 of the last 10, I don't see any reason whatsoever why this team cannot keep this sort of run going. Now, I know we're young, I know we're inexperienced, and there's still some lumps that we've got to take as well along the way. But look, when you've got New Orleans, Sacramento, Golden State, the Clippers, now they are some difficult games. They are some good Western Conference teams. But Golden State have not done well at the Amway Center over the last 5-6 years.
The Amway Center?
Sorry, the Kia Center.
But to be fair, Mikey, you are quite correct. They've not done well at the Amway Centre.
No, they haven't. They haven't even played at the Kia yet.
I'll rescue you, pal.
Cheers, dude. Cheers, dude.
Always there with the assist.
Yeah, good man. Good man. But I just think there's a lot of these teams that are not going to want to play a young, hungry team like the Magic, who are one of the best teams in the league defensively. You get JI back in the next couple of games, you're just going to elevate that consistency on the defensive end as well. And I'd like to see, there's one thing I'd like to see in this stretch as well, is a little bit more Goga. I'd like to sprinkle in a little bit more of, and we've seen this where Mose has been rotating, he's been going with the players with a hot hand or going with a matchup. I think like even maybe Utah last night, I think they were doing a stretch where Goga would have worked really well with a bit more size defensively. But anyway, I'm going off on a tangent. There's so much versatility on this team that I think it doesn't matter who we play. We've got a good enough team that we can go on and beat anybody. So yeah, I'm going to be really optimistic. I'm going 12-3.
The funny thing is, before I started speaking, knowing this question was coming up, I'd looked at it and I'd got us at 12-3. Listened to Gary and thought, yeah, that's perfect. That makes sense. So I did downgrade what I had. I had that confidence to start with, but I'll take that. I'll still take that middle ground.
Cool.
Jake, what about you?
11-4 I went with, including obviously last night's game against Utah. I mean, you know, I read the schedule out. I didn't know which of these road teams potentially have got back-to-backs against us. So there's probably a couple in there. They'll be on a second night of back-to-backs, whereas we won't be. So you obviously got to consider that. So I had us losing to Indiana at home, to New Orleans, Sacramento, and the Clippers. You know, just because record-wise, they're the teams, you know, that might give us problems. Obviously, New York on the road is going to be a big game. I think we can go and get one there. And it's obviously key in the standings race now. So, exactly what you guys have said. I'm not going to just repeat what you guys have just said, because there's no reason why we shouldn't be winning some of these. And we're doing it as well, you know, next man up mentality. You know, we're missing Paulo, we're missing JI. And hopefully, fingers crossed, touch wood, we get everyone back and we get a clean bit of health going forward. So cool. No, thank you for that. So the next question we have is from a good friend of mine, Mr. Howard Thomas. He's a UK Magic season ticket holder who I know is going out to the City Beautiful next week with his wife, Carenza. So firstly, hope you have an amazing time, mate, and get some more Magic W's. So he's got a question about the front court. Well, sorry, the centres in particular. And it's one sort of looking forward to next season. So assuming we need to carry 4 bigs, obviously counting JI along with Goga, Wendell and Mo Wagner. I know it's a bit negative now, but if we had to lose one of them, who would you lose? So I'll go to Mikey first, because the centre's kind of his position.
None of them. That's my longer response. No, I would stick with this front court, the bigs as it is. But I don't see why you would tinker with it. I think each of them offers something different that the others don't. Like Goga's not an offensive threat other than rim running and going up for offensive rebounds, but I think Goga defensively in his size, his shot blocking ability, he's always in the right position, gives us something that Mo and Wendell don't really have. Whereas Wendell was just solid. You know what you're going to get with him, and Mo is obviously going to give you that punch off the bench offensively. But Mate, I'm not moving one of them at the moment for me.
Okay. Do you boys want to chip in? Or you agree with Mikey?
I'll be honest, mate. At this moment in time, with 22 games remaining, we have the same win total as last season.
Mm-hmm.
Why are we even talking about what we need to do to change the team up? Let's just have the season out. Let's see where we are at the end of the season, and then those discussions. This group's done superbly well over the past 2 seasons. Let's run with it and let's see where we go.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing go on, Gar.
I was just going to say, I'm not going to ask the team to be split up or anything like that, given where we are and the fact that we could even have home court advantage if things go right for us. I think if you look at the 4 players there, we're not going to touch Jonathan Isaac, is my view, if we think we've got a chance of keeping him healthy. I'm saying this, if we had to shift a player where it was going to make us significantly better, in other words, as a trade piece to bring an all-star in, I would say the contract that's got the most value on the Magic is Wendell.
Mm-hmm.
So for that reason, I'll say Wendell, not because I want to, but because I think he is the one who would have the most value in bringing something more valuable back.
Yeah, I agree with everything you guys have said. Obviously, Franz and Paulo are your cornerstones. I don't feel that the centre position is absolutely necessary to have an upgrade of what we've got. Having somebody better than those guys, okay, it's a little bit desirable, but I think it's possibly the guard position that would help Paulo and Franz more. So if you're looking for upgrades, I think you're possibly looking at guard and not centre. And as you guys have said, Mikey mentioned it, they all bring something different and can be counted upon at various times, depending on what Coach Mosley wants.
There are clearly better guys out there that play in the NBA, but what we have is a strong group that can each give you something.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, should the Magic be due diligent and explore options of improving every position on the floor? Yes. But it's not a huge need for me at the moment.
Okay. So the second part to Howard's question was on the guard front. So he's put a few question marks against some of these players. He's just throwing out ideas. Is Jalen Suggs a keeper? Anthony Black, will his shot ever be reliable? It's difficult to say. He's in his very first season. Can Markel Fultz, be healthy? His availability? Does his shot look broken? And is Gary Harris unreliable, physically? Because we've seen him miss quite a few games. But so Howard himself would bring back out of that group Suggs, Black, Cole Anthony. But maybe he'd upgrade Fultz and Harris. So just what do you guys think to this? And I put a big thing on the agenda here in big capital letters that you guys need to take note of. So I go to Gary.
Yeah, I don't do well with threats, mate, so I'll trade Fultz. In all seriousness, I think it was 4 yeses for me to the question that was asked. I think if you're saying about a guard who's in danger with the Magic going, and I'm saying this as we could possibly be the home court advantage, so I'm just going to throw that in there. If you're saying the guard who's got the most to worry about, it's probably Gary Harris. And that's because I don't think Gary Harris can be healthy for a full season. I think Markel has the question marks about his durability. And I've been really open when I've said this before. I don't have any problem with Markel Fultz. I like him a lot, actually. But we cannot have 4 players on the team who are consistently injury problems. And with Jonathan Isaac, Markel Fultz, Wendell Carter, and Gary Harris, you've got 4 injury-prone players. We can't carry that going forward. So I think the big question mark around Markel is that. I actually think, G, and you can smile about this because there's no threat involved of an angry Welshman outside my house with his pitchfork and his daffodils, right? But I think Fultz's shoulder, because believe it or not, during the Utah game, that's what I've been watching. Markel Fultz's shoulder, which is really sad. I think his shoulder looks stronger than it has all season right now. And I think that's mirrored by that he's actually no longer looking like the mummy when he steps onto the court with all that tape hanging off it. He is getting, in my opinion, within the 3-point line, a better range of movement coming out of his shoulder than he has had for a long time. So that's a good sign for Markel Fultz. And in answer to the other two questions, I think Jalen Suggs right now is one of the first names on the team sheet. And do I think Anthony Black can have a healthy shot? Yes, because it's got better across the entire season.
Yeah.
So that's where I stand.
Cool. Anything to add to that, guys? Paul?
No, ditto with Gary. Absolutely.
Yeah.
100% agree.
Same,
Suggs
Mikey?
is a keeper. Black's improving throughout the season.
Yeah.
Not a lot to add. I'm just going to give Anthony Black his flowers. 37% from three. He's only shooting 1.5 attempts a game. But I think more than anything, if you look at his free throw form at the beginning of the season and how unstable it looked, how there wasn't any consistency with his form. You look at his free throw shot now, it looks completely different. I think he's put a lot of work into that. So yeah, I definitely think Anthony Black's shot will become more reliable for sure.
Cool. Next question from patron Gary Clark. So thank you, Gary, for sending this one in. Out of the rumoured potential trades that were sort of discussed and floating around the trade deadline, who do you think we should target, if any, come the off season now? Are there anybody, or do you think that sort of ship has sailed?
We're not talking buyout here, then. We're not for Gary's question.
No, he's asking for potential trades.
We're not looking for the run in to the season end where we've got to then move somebody out, drop a position to bring somebody in off the buyout market. You're going to say, because if that's the question, then no one. Off season, I'm still going to say I'd prefer not to have the conversation at this moment in time. I want to see what this team can do, have a full season of data, and then see what holes we have, and we can start picking up on that. As I said before, 22 games left. We have the same number of wins. Massive improvement on this team. And you, in that conversation, you're only talking about Anthony Black and Joe Ingles being the only changes from last season. And that's not being rude to Jet Howard, but he's hardly been with us. He's been in the G League, an absolute shed load. They're the only two effective changes. We are seeing improved health from this unit. That's the investment that the team has made in both the changes in the backroom staff for that and then the fitness centre. We're seeing that this team in the short period of redevelopment that we've had, and I think this redevelopment has started from the point where we pulled the plug on Vooch and Fournier and AG. That we signalled an ambition there that first round exit wasn't ultimately the goal. But with this is a patient front office who are happy to build steadily. We're pushing some established teams this season very, very hard in what is a third year for Franz and Jalen and the second year for Paulo. Let's see what we've got, personally, because we're doing really well on what we've got.
And like Paulo said on social media this week, imagine how scary it's going to be when we're at year 5 together, him and Franz. So,
again, come back to due diligence, yes.
Yeah. Okay, next question's come from another patron, Sean Moore. Thank you for sending it in, Sean. So I've got Paul again. Sorry, I've I've done this. So Paul's got back to back, mate. So what do you
I
think
missed
the
this
Magic?
one.
Oh, did you? All right, we can have a real time answer, mate, if you want, or
class.
we could just jump in.
Brace yourself, because this could be absolutely random rubbish, as opposed to prepared rubbish.
What do you think the Magic should do with Jonathan Isaac short term? Do we get him fit and get him straight back out there, or do we be more careful to make sure he's good for the playoffs? And the second part of, well, I'll let you go with the first part first, and then I'll come to the second part.
If JI's fit, we play him. Is that important to the team?
I like it. And do you know what? I had this question in the earlier part of the agenda, and then obviously Sean sent this one in, so I canned it from the recaps for following the Atlanta game. So read my mind, Sean. Well done, mate. And the second part of it, Paul, how about longer term? Should he be part of the team, and should we push forward with him? I think you've answered that already in previous questions. So 100%. I think we're all in agreement, aren't we?
Let's just go back to 2018-19 season. JI was, at that point, in our conversation, a potential defensive player of the year. He's gone through horrific injuries and he's fought his way back. He's proven this season what he can do for the team, and with improved availability that he's had this season. Okay, he's missed the last couple of games, but that's just a normal basketball injury. That's not a particular weakness or anything of that nature. Every team will have those injuries throughout the season, but JI is an integral part of the team for me.
Definitely. I just thought of something. Have we got an early tip-off on Sunday? I'm just trying to see if I can. It's 11 p.m. Is it? Okay, so it'll be a bit nicer than the usual slog that it is. So anything else, guys, you want to add before I draw this one to a close? No?
Let's go 12-3.
I like it.
I'm upset that we've got that 3 in there. Let's have the full 15.
Okay, so that's going to do it for this week, guys. Thank you for listening and watching. Before we go, we want to say a big thank you to all our patrons who help support the show. So thank you for your incredible support to Barry Conn, Paulo and Franz Warmth, Ollie Law, Gary Clark, Angus Craig, Dylan Holden, Alan Kane, Tom Soane, Mark Joss, Sean Moore, Liam Radbourne, Andy Lindley, Stuart Benzies, and Drummy Drum. If you're interested in joining our Patreon, we have 3 tiers available with varying benefits. Visit patreon.com/Let's Talk Magic to join today. And I must add, Paul's put some cracking videos up there last couple of weeks. Some bloopers that are really worthy of being on You've Been Framed. And it's just a shame You've Been Framed isn't still going, isn't it, Paul? Because I think you'd be making some money, mate.
We'd be quids in as a group. We would be quids in with them.
So
what I do for the Patreons is when I'm doing the game preview, if I have a particular nightmare, which does happen occasionally, I will put the bloopers into that group for them to see.
Yeah, and we had
raw bacon. Bacon, isn't it?
we had the patron call last Sunday, and Angus was saying, wasn't he, Gary? It was like the membership is worth it just for that alone. So if that doesn't make you want to join the Patreon, I don't know what will. So keep them coming, Paul. So if you enjoyed today's episode, please give it a thumbs up. Leave us your thoughts and questions, and we may even read some out on an upcoming episode. You can also like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and X, all at _Let's Talk Magic. So from Gary, Mikey, Paul, and myself, until next week, go Magic.